It's Restorative Justice Week, with a focus on restorative approach to school to prison pipeline in Jamaica. And we take it further to the workplace.
It affects the organization's relationship internally, it affects the dynamics of that, it affects productivity, it affects communication, it affects a number of things.
So stay with us to hear from the experts on how to manage those conflicts. Hello and welcome to Jamaica Magazine. I'm Adrian Atkinson. Also in the show, living with lupus and providing the right learning environment for children with special needs.
Hey there. So, did you know that plastic bags were introduced to supermarkets in 1977? The production of plastic bags are toxic to the environment as the process involves the use of petroleum, natural gas and other chemicals. 160,000 plastic bags are used globally every second and 5 trillion are produced yearly. Side by side, they can encircle the world 7 times. Plastic degrades after 700 years and will only fully degrade in 1,000. This means that all the plastic that has ever been produced has not degraded. It remains toxic even after it breaks down. 13 million metric tons of plastic end up in the ocean every year, and at least 800 species worldwide are affected by marine debris, of which 80% is plastic and is mistaken for food by turtles, fish, and other marine life. Research has shown that fish caught for human consumption contain plastic nanoparticles. An average family will use 60 plastic bags on 4 visits to the supermarket, and only 1 to 3% are recycled worldwide. Play your part in advancing your welfare and that of the earth. Support the ban on plastic. Reduce, reuse, recycle, and get eco-friendly bags for you and your 1877.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh and this is your JIS News for Thursday, February 7. Another zone of special operations, ZOSO, is likely to be named before the end of March. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says allocations have been made in the 2019-2020 budget, and once it is approved, ZOSOs will be established in several communities across the island.
We intend to and have budgeted for a few more communities in the coming fiscal year. And we believe that these interventions through the zones of special operations will contribute to the reduction of the murder rate, to the reduction of crimes generally, but to, more importantly, Mr. Speaker, establish peace in our country.
The Prime Minister was addressing Tuesday's sitting of the House of Representatives, where he successfully moved 2 motions to extend the Mount Salem and Denham Town ZOSOs for a further 60 days. The communities are currently in the building phase of the operation, with land titling activities ongoing in Mount Salem and a $184 million infrastructure improvement project being implemented in Denham Town. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says Jamaica has sought and received support from the European Union to execute the ZOSOs and other intervention programs.
More and more, Mr. Speaker, our development partners are taking interest in the zones of special operations because the challenge of violence in communities is not just a Jamaican occurrence. It is happening right across the Caribbean and in the wider Latin American region. So what we are doing is being studied. People are taking interest in it to see how well it works.
The Prime Minister asserts that the special security measures have been effective, as no murder has been recorded in Mount Salem and only 1 in Denham Town since their declaration as ZOSOs. As at February 4, the island has recorded 46 fewer murders than it did in the same period last year.
All possible measures that are permitted within our constitutional arrangements are being used.
Entities in Jamaica can freely do business with WINDALCO without the threat of sanctions. Mining Minister Robert Montague has given that assurance as the United States government moves to lift the sanctions imposed on UC Rusal, the majority owner of the WINDALCO bauxite plant in St. Catherine. The minister says this is possible as independent persons now control a significant block of the shares of N+, UC Rusal's parent company. In addition, he says UC Rusal has agreed to transparency in its operations by undertaking ongoing audits and certification.
This, Mr. Speaker, is positive news for the government and people of Jamaica. It is positive news for WINDALCO and its over 1,000 employees who had faced an uncertain future when the sanctions were initially announced. It is positive news for Jamaican companies and individuals that conduct business with WINDALCO. It is indeed positive news for the economy.
On April 6 last year, the U.S. Department of Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control added 7 Russian oligarchs and 12 companies they control, including UC Rusal, to its designated nationals list of OFAC sanctions. In other mining news, the Portfolio Minister has ordered the Jamaica Bauxite Institute, JBI, to conduct an audit of the country's mud lakes. Minister Robert Montague says the audit should assess the strength of the mud lakes' walls so that there are no breaches of groundwater systems. He points out that the bauxite industry is using a new disposal technique which involves stacking dry and thick mud and draining the mud so the liquid content evaporates. Mud lakes are the residual disposal areas for the bauxite industry. They contain properties such as iron oxide, aluminum oxide, and sodium oxide. Minister Montague says it is important for the industry and communities to coexist because bauxite is important to the island's economy. The Education Ministry will be building 17 new schools across the island. Portfolio Minister Senator Ruel Reid says submissions have been made to the Public Investment Management Secretariat for approval to construct the 10 primary and 7 high schools.
And PIM-C will make the final decision, and then as funds are available, the projects will be approved. We have to make sure there are enough institutions, publicly funded institutions, so no child will be left behind.
Senator Reid was addressing his ministry's press briefing on Tuesday. He pointed out that close to $2 billion had been spent on school infrastructure and maintenance since 2016. Spanish hotel chain H10 officially broke ground yesterday on its new property in Coral Spring, Trelawny. The Ocean Coral Spring by H10 will be opened by year-end. It represents an investment of $250 million by the Spanish international brand. Tourism Minister Edmund Bartlett says the hotel will further improve the allure of Trelawny as one of the country's preferred tourist areas.
Trelawny, in the next 3 years, will have the second largest inventory of tourism rooms in Jamaica because the expansion of Royalton is on track. Another 1,200 rooms, 6 on each side. The expansion of Oyster Bay is on track. Another 500 rooms. Then there is Amatera next door, which will start with 1,200 rooms. And then there is harmonization to come with another 2,000 or so rooms.
Ocean Coral Spring will consist of 2 5-star all-inclusive hotels and several entertainment and gastronomic facilities. And finally, the Heart Foundation of Jamaica is offering free blood pressure and blood sugar tests at a number of health centers throughout February as part of Heart Month observation. The foundation will also be hosting a medical symposium for health professionals and a CPR day to teach persons how to perform cardiopulmonary resuscitation. In the meantime, Executive Director Deborah Chen is encouraging persons to monitor their diets to help prevent heart disease.
There is a lot of evidence linking sugar with sweetened beverages and obesity, which increase your risk for diabetes and then heart disease. So we just need to be mindful. So certainly, if you watch what you drink and drink water instead, then you would go a far way to maintaining your calories and your healthy weight.
Mrs. Chen was speaking at a recent JIS think tank. With data showing that about 400 million people globally are diabetic, this February's Heart Month observation focuses on the theme, Diabetic Heart, Are You at Risk? And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
Working together often comes with some level of disagreement that usually doesn't disrupt the workplace. But when these start to escalate, it's time for intervention. And the Dispute Resolution Foundation will tell us why and how.
This sort of conflict is unhealthy for productivity in the workplace. You guys can't continue like this.
And she come in the morning and I'm trying to show her and she just acts like idiot.
Alright, so here what? I have a video from the Dispute Resolution Foundation that I think you guys need to watch. Come with me.
Conflict is at its most fundamental, a disagreement. Workplace conflict has a number of significant impacts. There's a cost to conflict at the workplace. So someone seeing a dispute between two employees or between employees and the employer being played out in public might be inconvenienced by what is happening, but they're unaware of what's the cost. There are all kinds of costs, from personal costs, health costs, reputational costs, to financial costs. So conflict can impact somebody at the workplace. It can impact the production and productivity of the business. If you think of it, any workplace could find that between a supervisor or just between two employees, there could be an unresolved conflict and it affects how they work. So if we have to work in a way that says your work is affecting mine and vice versa, and we're not getting along, then over time what will happen is that we tend not to be very productive because we're not communicating with each other, we're not responding, we're not engaged. So it affects the organization's relationship internally, it affects the dynamics of that, it affects productivity, it affects communication, it affects a number of things. So simple things like management decisions may be impacted by conflict at the workplace.
Mediation is very, very important in order to solve conflicts like these and to ensure that we have productivity.
Conflict resolution is a very broad term used to describe different approaches to try and manage conflict when conflict occurs. So mediation is just one of those processes, a very structured process in which a neutral third party who is trained helps disputing parties to come to a resolution of their dispute. Now, at the workplace, that will be helping them to negotiate. So they may be unable to negotiate by themselves, so they may get somebody who is external to each of them to help them to resolve that dispute, and that person would play the role of a mediator.
So guys, this is where I come in, to sit with you both and to discuss the issue further. But before we get to the meat of the matter, there is just one more point to note.
Now, in order to do that, the mediator has to have some very effective communication skills. So how does the mediator communicate? And communicate in a way that includes both verbal and non-verbal, but at the same time interpreting what is it that the verbal and non-verbal cues that are coming from the parties. What are those cues saying? So the mediator has to be very effective at communication. Now, helping the parties to communicate may be a part of the communication, the larger communication skills of the mediator. However, at a particular point in time, mediator has to help the parties to negotiate. So the mediator has to be au fait with what negotiation is about, how are the parties negotiating, and help them to be able to negotiate in a way that settles the dispute that they have.
Alright, so as you guys can see, conflict, it's not new. Today was probably the first for you guys, and it maybe won't be the last. But based on the video that you've just seen, you can now tell the true effect of what conflict can do within the organization. So you see, it's very important for you to practice mediation and proper conflict resolutions. Now, having seen or heard all of that, what really happened today?
ladies, we're going into communities to identify persons on the voters list over 40 years old who have died, so the EOJ can update their voters list.
Oh, Derek can come off of the list now and the last year I'm dead.
Exactly.
From November 2018, the EOJ will be conducting a special exercise to remove the names of voters that have passed away from the voters list. You can help. Call the EOJ at 888-991-VOTE. For more information, visit our website at ecj.com.jm.
Up next, Dr. Jacqueline Goldburn shares her experience of living with lupus, a disease which affects the brain, lungs, kidneys, blood vessels, and other internal organs.
I was diagnosed with lupus in 2008, but from my own knowledge of what is happening, I must have had lupus all my life, as it were, because I've always been having symptoms. But the challenge that I had was that I was always misdiagnosed. And so that is the focus of my, the challenges in terms of, the doctors would think that I have something else and not lupus, but you'd have different symptoms. But I have systemic lupus, and lupus is not only systemic, but some persons just have what we call discord lupus or other little types, joint pains, and so on. But I have the full works. Well, I was extremely disappointed because I felt, oh my God, I have lived a good life. I have always been careful about what I eat. I've always been sure to exercise. I've used to be nice and slim and beautiful. And to hear that now I have this condition, I did not want to believe. And then it got worse after the diagnosis. You know, I had periods where I couldn't work at all. There was a 4-year period in my life that I never worked. I just couldn't work. I was just always sick. I was always in hospital. Sometimes I'm in intensive care, sometimes I am unconscious, sometimes I'm all kinds of things. So it has not been a very wonderful ride. In 2014, I became, my kidneys stopped working. So I was now in renal failure. And it means that I now have to go to dialysis. So there were days when I would just be so weak. My blood count, that's HB, would fall to a very low level. I had to get blood. I had to look at what I eat. I had to look at how much I do. I had no energy most times. I couldn't do anything. I just had to lie down in my bed. So just different things. You couldn't walk sometimes. Sometimes I can't talk clearly. Sometimes I can't see. Sometimes my hands are so sore and I can't use them. Sometimes just different things. My lungs would fail. Different things would happen. So I've been through the ropes. Mentally, it was devastating because I feel that that's not supposed to happen to me. So I went through that period. I actually went through a period of severe depression. I was just so depressed. I could not help myself. There were days I just cry and cry and cry. And part of that too is the medication that I take. Some of the steroids make you depressed. And then you look into the mirror and you look at yourself and say, who is this? I don't know you. Can I tell you, I have learned to love life and to live. And that is what is important to me. Each day counts. And I believe that I should live each day to the fullest. With lupus, there is this uncertainty. I don't know when I will be unconscious again. I don't know when I will die. But I am going to maintain the quality of life, and I'm going to have a good life, and I'm going to live. I have good family support. My husband is extremely supportive, my son. So I have them. And I have good friends. Good friends, the saying goes, good friends are better than pocket money. Then there's also the Lupus Foundation, which is important. There is a support group there. There are excellent rheumatologists there who will provide advice and help and care and just information. There's a whole host of books and tapes and all kinds of things that you can get information from. There is also the website that you can look at and get information as well. I've actually gone for job interviews and I know I don't get a job not because I'm not qualified, but because I have lupus. So employers need to understand that people living with lupus can actually contribute and, make adjustments. There are days, for example, after dialysis that I will come to work a little bit late, but I will work later to make sure that the time is there. I have learned that it has no boundaries, it has no behavior, it has no conscience, it has no purpose, it has no time. It does what it chooses to do whenever. And therefore you need to be aware of yourself and what are some of the things that are your triggers, and therefore try to manage and monitor those. You must also be mindful of the medication that you have to take and take them carefully and take them well. You should also be mindful of your appointments with your doctors and make sure that you keep those appointments. I would say to you, help is available. Find some help, find some support. Talking about it helps. Don't feel that it is because you're special or you're being punished why you have lupus, but recognize that this is just another thing that could happen to anybody, color, class or creed, rich or poor, man or woman. There are more women with lupus than men, but men have lupus as well. And so be aware of the symptoms, get help, get treatment. Don't hide away, don't think that people obey you, because Jamaica is famous for that, but know that this is a condition that can be controlled. It cannot be cured. It can be controlled and you can maintain a healthy life. Seek to work, seek to be involved, do what you're doing, treat whatever is happening. If it's depression, get it treated, get treatment, get help. Help is available.
To learn more about lupus, contact the Lupus Foundation of Jamaica via their website lupusfoundationjamaica.org or 754-8458. You may also visit them at 7 Barbados Avenue, Kingston 5.
It's time now to share in the success of the early stimulation program.
I can see clearly now, the rain is gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Here is the rainbow I've been praying for. It's gonna be a bright sunshiny day.
The Early Stimulation Program is an intervention assessment catering to the various developmental needs of children with disabilities from birth to 6 years old. The program operates through the Ministry of Labour and Social Security under its Integrated Social Protection and Labour Program.
The Early Stimulation Program is an excellent program, and it provides intervention for children with developmental challenges from 0 to 6 years old, whether physical or mental challenges. It identifies and it intervenes at an early age.
The program is to assist these children who are sometimes left behind, disregarded, stigmatized, to reach their highest potential and to be mainstream, whether into the special education program or the regular education system.
Approximately 30,000 children have been assisted by the Early Stimulation Program, ESP, since its inception in 1975, and over 6,000 of them have been placed in regular primary schools or special education centers. Children in the program have varying types of developmental disabilities and are all ably catered for through intervention strategies employed by specialized professionals.
Our stimulation exercises look at least at 5 developmental domains. They look at the language of the child, the cognitive, the social and emotional, the growth and fine motor adaptive. This helps us to sort of set their program and to take them through the developmental process.
Children who are brought to the early stimulation program are usually referred by the hospitals, infant and basic schools, and by social workers and guidance counselors.
When they are referred, what we do is a developmental assessment to see where they are, and then we put together a program tailored to meet their developmental needs.
The work of the ESP is not limited to the centre. Child development officers are also in the field, working with children at schools, nurseries, and also in communities through home visits.
They receive other assistance through the ministry, the PAD program, for adaptive aids, wheelchairs, eyeglasses. They are part of the PAD program, which gives further assistance. Also through small rehabilitation grants that assist the families of these children to better help themselves.
A number of improvement projects are being implemented, which will provide the students with resources to improve the quality of their learning. The new facility now boasts an administrative block, assessment clinic, staff room, multi-purpose meeting room, receptionist and waiting area, assessment rooms, sensory and speech therapy room, physiotherapy room, green space, and play area.
I don't know how to manage without this place. Just don't know how to manage. The staff at the stimulation program, they let our babies feel like human beings. You feel special, Words can't explain.
My child both feet were twisted. And this program has helped him to get off the twisted foot because he couldn't walk. He's now walking, running, he's all over the place, on his toes. This program has done marvelous for him.
She coming here, she wasn't doing anything but carrying her to the early stimulation. She started creeping, she started holding on, she started getting up off her own. And it make a big difference to me because when I used to have her home, she wasn't doing anything at all. But carrying her here and to the physiotherapy, yes, it's work. So no more crying for me.
This stimulation here helps us because we are poor, we can't afford, the other places. So this helps us to know more about our child and also to stimulate our child to get better. And we meet other parents that is suffering the same way that we are feeling, and help us to get over our problems. They take us to seminars, differently from our sessions that we have here at this building. So he has improved a lot. And it's not me alone see it either, don't it, Si?
The ESP also facilitates the provision of field placements for tertiary level students in the fields of physical therapy, psychology, social work, and early childhood education.
I would like to say to parents, don't sit there and wait saying you don't have the money or you can't afford to. It is free. Come in and have your child assessed and begin the intervention program with your children with special needs. The sooner the better. Don't sit and wait.
For further information on the early stimulation program, call 922-5585 or visit their office at 95 Hanover Street in Kingston.
As we close today's show, we ask that you stay connected via our website, jis.gov.jm. And while you're online, send your feedback to Jamaica Magazine at jis.gov.jm or via tweet at JIS News. On behalf of the entire production crew, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thanks for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.